We're ready to move on to the next team, and that would be Team 8. It's Agents of H.E.A.L.
Hi there, my name is Trevor, and I'm a member of the Agents of H.E.A.L. Here's our pitch. So first off, we chose the 7th problem statement regarding food and waste. Specifically, our problem is that a significant portion of global greenhouse gas emissions, approximately 6%, is associated with food and waste, especially originating from high-income countries. Every year in Canada, 2.2 million tons of food goes to waste. In fact, the average Canadian household wastes about 140 kilograms of food per year. That's the equivalent to around $1,800 that they could have saved. Now in Ontario, the main cause of food waste is overstocking. When people buy more food than they can eat, they sometimes don't have a chance to eat it, and thus it becomes spoiled. This causes it to either be wasted, which costs consumers money, or ends up in landfills, which contributes to the emission of global greenhouse gases. Another cause of food waste is incorrect storage or packaging that leads to contamination. We found that a prevalent reason for this is the lack of education on the subject. Individuals may be unaware of how to properly conserve and preserve their food and end up having to throw out food which could have been saved if they knew preservation methods. These days, adolescents are reading less and spending more time on their phones. In order to properly educate individuals on food preservation methods, we developed the C-Tag. The C-Tag is a small biodegradable sticker which will be placed on packaging of fruits and vegetables that are available at local grocery stores. On the C-Tag, there will be a captivating tip that will inform users or consumers of quick and easy food preservation methods. For example, did you know that if you store carrots in water, you can preserve them for up to 14 more days? Attached below will be a QR code that will send users who scan it over to a social media page, which will have quick and useful videos on how to preserve their food. Once they view the video, users will be encouraged to share it among their friends and family to inspire others to preserve their food. Typical solutions to this issue address the problem once it's already happened. Our solution aims to be proactive instead of reactive, and our goal of this invention is to reduce the amount of food that goes to waste as a result of poor conservation ethics. Hopefully, it will subsequently reduce the amount of food waste that ends up in landfills and contributes to the emission of global greenhouse gases. So here are some more C-Tag examples. As shown, the C-Tag is extremely versatile and can be modified to fit any fruit or vegetable. In addition to being easily changeable, the C-Tag can also be placed on a wide variety of packaging, such as boxes that strawberries come in, celery and lettuce bags, and more. So since our solution involves consumers, how does it address the intention-action gap? In other words, how does our solution alleviate the 3 cognitive biases that break an intention from turning into an action at the individual level? So here are the 3 biases. First, the present bias implies that we heavily discount the future and make decisions that benefit us only in the present. Our solution solves this since consumers will be actively saving money after their purchase of each individual fruit or vegetable. Second, the social norm bias is defined by our heavy influence on visible actions by others and our want for pro-social behavior. To put it another way, how does our solution make the consumer's actions visible to others? Consumers can show their pro-social behavior when they share the food conservation videos that they accessed through the C-Tag with family, friends, and neighbors. Finally, the loss aversion bias is defined by our hesitance to give things up. Therefore, we need to make people feel like they're gaining something and not losing anything. Consumers are not giving anything up and are actually gaining valuable knowledge on how to preserve food while saving money.
Now, of course, there are some benefits associated with the C-Tag. And first, we'll dive into the environmental benefits. So first off, we have reducing food waste at household level will reduce the greenhouse gas emitted from waste, especially the waste that ends up in the landfills. And so a big portion of the greenhouse gas emitted from the landfills is methane, which creates a very large greenhouse effect. And second of all, we have consumers preserving food, and this will create a less aggregate consumer demand at grocery stores, in turn reducing food waste from grocery stores, kind of tying itself into the last point with less waste in the landfills means less greenhouse emitted. Next up, we have consumer benefits. This is more on an individual basis. So individuals will become more educated about food preservation and practical ways on how to elongate the lifespan of their purchases. Individuals will save money by having to purchase less, and the C-Tag is easy to understand with specific advice located directly on the packaging with the option to further educate themselves through provided resources such as social media, website, or even friends and family. Now, in terms of implementation plan, our solution can be carried out through two intertwined channels. The first one we'll dive into is the government. So through legislation, the government would require food packaging companies to add the C tag onto the produce packaging. The government would run its own social media account. And why would the government do this, you might ask yourself? Well, it helps them achieve the Climate Action Plan objectives, which is net zero emissions for Canada by 2050. It also creates a positive image in the eyes of the public. Now, the other channel, food packaging companies, they would have to add the C tag on their own individual packaging. And they'll buy these C tags in bulk from a third-party supplier that has to be approved by the government because we need these C tags to be biodegradable. Now, for production and marketing and the costs associated with these, we're looking at a small rectangle to go on the packages, probably 4 by 2 inches. And these C tags would be less than 5 cents per tag in small quantities. And you can imagine that the price would be significantly less if we're buying in bulk. And the cost associated with running a social media account, we're looking at approximately $40,000 per person annually. And ideally, we'd like to have one social media marketer per social media platform. And as we said, this would be funded by the government. Now, implementation plan, the timeline. So the optimal timeline for implementation, we're looking around 6 months. And in this time, we'd like to set up social media platform accounts. We'd like to have the approval of third-party suppliers by the government. And we'd also like to run some experimental trials in grocery stores to collect data for expansion. And we've actually already been in contact with the grocery store who said they want to learn more about the C tag and potentially implement it. Now, addressing possible liability issues. We're going to do this through a clear and concise message on the label itself. You can see at the bottom there, good for an extra 2 weeks after expiry date. Also, before viewing the video, a notice will come up to warn the consumer of any health risks associated with the preservation method. In terms of barriers, we have 2 main ones. So food packaging companies will shift the burden of the added cost of the C tag onto consumers, but since this cost is so minimal, it will have no profound effect on the consumer. And also slow production process. And this will be especially prevalent through passing legislation and approval of third-party suppliers by the government. We hope you can agree that the C tag is a revolutionary concept that takes a more proactive instead of reactive approach to reducing greenhouse emissions. I'll leave you with this. The C tag will help consumers save money, save food, but more importantly, save the planet. Thank you very much.
Trevor, Jaden, thank you so much for that presentation. Definitely an everyday challenge for us, and you're about to help salvage some of the celery in my refrigerator. But with that said, let's move on to some of the questions from the judges. So Judge Riyadh is asking if the packaging is biodegradable.
Yeah, I can take this one, Trevor. So pretty much what we're trying to do is put the C tag on the existing packaging. So for instance, if you go to the grocery store and you buy a pack of lettuce or something, it's already in a plastic bag. So we'd like to attach the C tag to it, not directly with the plastic bag. So then the C tag can be disposed of properly. And unfortunately, the plastic bag, there's not much we can do about that. That's just the packaging companies.
And Judge David Pogue had an interesting question, and it says, if C tags catch on, then the food producers and stores will sell less food and make less money. Therefore, don't they have a disincentive to use them? Also, why not just print the information on the package, much like nutrition panels appear today?
Trevor, you want to go? Yeah.
Yep, I get it. So essentially, we would like to make a separate tag instead of producing, or wait, no, that was a different question, sorry. So yeah, we think that food producers and stores will in fact, it will generate like a positive reputation for them and a positive image. And we think that consumers may come back to the same store knowing that the C tag is actually applied onto the actual product, and it could give an advantage to that store compared to others, which could maybe not have as much of a good reputation as in terms of conserving food. Sorry. And also, yeah, we wanted to, we didn't want to print it directly on the package because that would increase the amount of waste and packaging waste that occurs with the product. We want to have a separate biodegradable tag just so it can, not increase the waste at all. And they could even maybe save it for later in order to share it with their friends and scan the QR code.
And Judge Mark Brouillard had a question about fruits coming in, vegetables. Many of them come in bulk. So how would you add the tag to those?
So we'd be looking to add it, excuse me, at the production facilities. So when the food is being packaged, we'd probably like to add it there. It's just part of the packaging like assembly line, I guess. Yeah, ideally we'd like to have it on each package so that when consumers buy it, they'll know right away. Like they pick up a bag of apples or whatever, they'll know right away that, okay, if I don't have a specific suggestion for apples, but if I do something, then I can preserve them for X amount of time longer. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Could you include ideas to use up product that is losing its freshness?
Yes. So essentially, by a product that's losing up its freshness, would you mean like a product that is close to its expiry date?
That's correct.
Or, yeah. So essentially, what we put is good for X amount of time after its expiry date. So products that are closer to expiring, those would also still have the same message. We could maybe print a different message, knowing that it would take a certain amount of time for this the C tag to reach this product, and by then it would have this amount of days less to be preserved. But essentially, like one of them for I think celery, it said that we could preserve it for weeks to come. So it wouldn't make that much of a difference depending on how long you can preserve the food after its technical expiry date.
Okay, and one last question. You spoke about the legal liabilities. Do you foresee any legal obstacles when you're stating a product is good longer than their expiry date?
Yeah, this was definitely a barrier, and we tried to address this in the best way possible. Obviously, moving forward, we're going to have to look into it a little bit more and actually contact the government and see what we could do in terms of legal liability. But our plan is to add a notice on the bottom of the C tag that tells the consumer how much longer it'll be good for if you use our preservation tips, or even through the social media accounts, a notice will come up and just informing consumers about how much longer it can be good for.
Team Agents of H.E.A.L, thank you so much for your time and your presentation.